Goodbye, farewell, I'm not sure what to do. So long, au revoir. It's hard, but I'll pull through. Are you sure you won't be sorry comes tomorrow? You won't want me back.
Right, well, basically, that was the talent contest. And I don't remember exactly what happened, but I know the pianist said to me, here's my card, come up and see me next week, right? Okay. So we must have sung a couple of mine. Because this bloke said to me, because that's what the recording manager said to us eventually. But anyway, this publisher said, come up and see me. And we'd already started rehearsing a couple of new musicians. We sang in the coffee bar from April till June. This was in August. So we had to find some new musicians. And we'd started practicing a couple of fellas. So I remember one of them went up with me. But anyway, at that meeting, I don't know if Gerald Marks was there, but I know we had to ring him. So perhaps one of the bloke, the musicians, gave us the edit. The song, the talent contest, was partly run by an Austrian tape recorder company and Disc Music magazine.
Yeah.
And he told us to ring the editor the following week. So we rang him as well, and he said he wanted to interview us and talk about the talent show and so on, you know. And I rang the publisher to come up and see me. Now this is amazing. This. In '59, when I wrote Are You Sure, we'd already made about half a dozen tapes and sent them to several companies, including Are You Sure, and they either didn't reply or they sent the tape back. So it didn't seem anything special. We then, when we did our BBC radio audition in February 1960, and when we went up for it, I didn't realise it, but we sang 3 of the songs I'd written, and we failed that, not because of our voices, because my guitar playing wasn't good. It was Are You Sure, From Now On, and Darling Trusting Me.
Oh, yes,
right, that was in February 1960. Yeah. Then we met up, Bob had a guitarist at his school, and he told us he played in a small trio. We rehearsed with them in Chelsea, that was about March. Then we got the coffee bar job in April, that lasted till the end of June. And then we lost them, we had a tiff. We got £3 a night for 5 of us. That was 12 shillings each, 60 pence each, singing all night. We used to walk home from Oxford Street all the way to Fulham to save the money, you know. Anyway, so we'd got these musicians, so I rang the publisher and he asked me to go up and see him after the talent show. I remember being in his office in Charing Cross Road somewhere and played him half a dozen songs that I'd written, and he actually said no to everything, including Are You Sure? He said no, he said I don't think there's anything I can use. And I'd taken this guitarist with me, we'd been rehearsing, and he didn't say anything, he was just there as a witness, I thought, for safety, you know. And the publisher said, no, I'm sorry. So I still didn't think I'd got anything special. I thought, well, obviously I can't write songs. It's a hobby. So I didn't have any pretensions. I don't think I can write hit songs. It's a hobby, and we make a couple of them sound nice. But when we get into, if we get them to make a record, they'll probably find us some proper pop songs, you know. I don't know where you get them. Anyway, so I came back from that, and we exchanged 3 or 4 phone calls with the editor of the music magazine, and he kept telling us, oh, well done, boys. He said, we've gone to the next stage of judging. Cliff Richard's listened to the tapes, because it was to find a new Cliff Richard. And he said, you're through to the final 20, and then the following week, you're down to the last 6. We said, I can't believe it, my goodness. We could even end up coming 2nd or 3rd or something, you know. Anyway, he rang us up again about a week later and said, he said, you're in the last 3. Can you turn up at the ATV studios in Wembley?
That's right, yes, that was it then. Wasn't it?
This is mine. This is going to be a bit worrying. And of course, I'd got this job at this engineering company, and I'd taken several afternoons off to go to the dentist.
Yes, I'd had a job too. You had to take time off.
I knew they were getting suspicious. I mean, how many dental appointments can you have? You know, or I didn't have any funerals, lucky. I'd have got rid of all my bloody relatives, you know.
Dental appointments.
Oh,
Granny's passing away.
Once I pretended I went down the labour exchange because I was worried about being called up. I took the afternoon off for that. That was one thing. And another one, I went to, I don't know what, all sorts of excuses to go and see them. I'd go to the hospital. I had some sort of a health problem because of my nerves. And it was just to go to meetings and, you know, and so on. It was mind-wracking. I thought, well, what if, supposing they say to me, well, we're fed up with all these absences. I'd got an apprenticeship. I was going to college, you know. And the thing is, you need a job. And we had no money in prospect, you know. What was I on, about £7 a week by then, you know.
That's
Bob,
right.
you'd started at Cadby Hall.
That's £6 a week.
Yeah. Ordering bread wrappers, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, for Lion's bread, you know.
Something like that.
So life is very ordinary and basic, you know. So it's just, will we ever do something, that magic breakthrough that starts making things happen, but we didn't quite know what it was going to be?
Yeah, I think this competition too held the promise, and this is what actually happened.
Yeah, you got a portable tape recorder, a free weekend in Vienna for 2, and a record test. Well, that was the record test. That's what
The
we wanted.
record
A
test.
chance to test for a record company. Right. So anyway, we went up to, I took the afternoon off. We went up to Wembley, you know, went up to the ATV studios, and we were in a dressing room with 2 other fellas, you know, and they called us in one at a time. A bit nervous. I'd had a bad cold, I'd got a bad throat, you know. I said, oh goodness, I'm going to have to force myself to sing. I remember taking Pro Plus tablets.
Did you?
Do remember,
Yeah.
for vitality, and drinking half a pint of milk to buck me up. I couldn't eat any food, and my throat was sore, my head was spinning, took some aspirin, you know. Anyway, we went into this little room. Now, by this stage, what we didn't know was in that intervening period of actually doing the talent show and being judged by Cliff Richard's father had found out what a crook Tito Burns was, his agent, right? And one of the judges was Tito Burns, who managed several people, including Cliff Richard, and one of the other judges was Gerald Marks, the editor of Disc, and there was another judge. Was it the owner of the tape recorder company? Something like that.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
by the time we came to Wembley, it was like 5 or 6 weeks after the talent show, Cliff Richard and his father had fallen out with Tito Burns, his agent manager. So Cliff didn't want anything more to do with the contest. He backed off. So they replaced him with another singer from Fontana called Phillips.
Yeah.
Somebody called Phillips.
Well, there was a guy in a gold army suit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
there was a guy.
We didn't know who he was. Lloyd Price or something.
Yeah, and
Lloyd
there was
Price?
Alvin Stardust or what?
No, he wasn't there. No. Somebody said Alvin was one of the singers, but he wasn't. You know, we'd beaten Alvin Stardust. No, it was just Tito Burns, Gerald Marks, and this.
It was the judges, but I'm
They were
talking
the
about the
judges.
competitors.
Oh, no, apparently he wasn't in it.
Oh,
so I don't know if he wasn't any of the judges. Anyway, so we went into this room, we had to just sing live in front of them with me playing guitar, and they sat at a long trestle table, right? And we sang 1 or 2 songs, I suppose, and they sort of looked at each other and, yes, okay, thank you very much, and back to the dressing room, you know, sort of waiting in there. And then they called us back to this, they thought, oh, we've got to do it again or something, and where we walked in, they said, oh, congratulations, you're the winners. We said, what?
Yes, exactly. We couldn't believe it.
Oh my goodness, we've done it. We've actually done
We
it.
won the competition.
And then they said, have you ever been on television?
So
We said, no.
no.
I said, well, just down the corridor,
Yeah.
there's a man you may have heard of, Mr. Bert Whedon. We said, yes, he's a guitarist. And they said, yes, well, we've told him about you and he'd like you to be on his show.
This was a
We said,
children's hour.
A live broadcast, because we
live
didn't know it was
broadcast,
possible
yeah.
to be recorded. So we were taken down this passage and introduced, hello, how do you do, hello boys,
Ever so
how are
nice,
you?
Bert Whedon,
Oh,
ever
no.
so nice, you know.
It's all congratulations on winning the contest. I understand you'd like to sing a song with me. I thought, well, I don't know about that. You would like us to appear on your programme, apparently. But anyway, he said, would you mind singing for the girls and boys? And we said, oh, yeah, sure. He said, right. Anyway, okay, then we decided what we were going to sing, probably Colette.
Probably.
And I've got a memory that we had another show with him and we did Michael Row the Boat Ashore. And he asked me to show him the chords. And I thought, you're a guitarist and you don't know the chords to Michael Row the Boat. I couldn't have played anything else very much, you know. But I remember showing him the chords to Michael Row the Boat Ashore. Anyway, that night, we stood on the side until somebody said, go on, Emma, go on. So shook his hand and I don't know if we sat there or stood there. And he said, what are you going to sing for us? And we said, oh, Colette, okay. So I just played a chord and we just sang it live, you know. Came off, thank you very much. Shook our hands. And went back to our dressing room and got changed and went home.
You went home on the bus or something.
Oh, what I
yeah.
didn't realise was there was some photographer there taking a picture of us.
Ah, right.
And the next day I found out that somebody at work had seen our photograph in the Evening Star.
Oh, I
and there was a
see.
photograph of us at a microphone with the word Stutzy in front, which was the name of it. So that's where you were. Oh, I've lost the job.
dear
I'm going to be
me.
sacked. I've lost the job. My mum would be living. My dad would go crazy.
Yes,
you know.
yeah.
Couldn't believe it. But nobody said anything.
Yeah. There's a little story too. As we came home on the bus.
On the underground train from Wembley.
Okay, on the underground train. And we were with the last walk, sort of like
Yeah.
half a mile from the station to home. We were walking along, he had his guitar, walking along, and a little girl of about 10 or 12 came up some steps from a basement, saw the two of us, and she said, I've just seen you on the television. And she nearly collapsed. I said, keep going, keep going. She couldn't believe she'd just seen us on Children's Hour, and here we are walking along down the road with
What
her
was it called? Lucky Dip?
Lucky Dip,
Lucky
yes,
Dip,
which
yeah.
later became
Tuesday
Tuesday
Rendezvous.
Rendezvous.
Yeah. Oh, from then on. Oh, what Bert Whedon said to us. Do you remember? I remember in the dressing room, he said to us, "Oh, congratulations, boys!
Yeah.
You've got a lovely sound." He said, "Wish you all the best for your record test." He said, "If ever you make a record, let me know, and you can come back and sing it on my program for the boys and girls."
Which, of course, is what we did.
Yeah, every time from then on, whenever we made a record, we were on Bert Whedon's program. And I don't know. I mean, I've got to admit, I don't know, but it's possible we were the first pop singers to appear on a children's program.
It might well be. It's setting a trend, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody else who did it before us.
No.
It wasn't the sort of thing you'd have on a children's
Not
program.
pop singers,
Puppets
no.
and making things out of
Puppets and
paper and
yeah.
card and things, you know. And, anyway.
We set a few trends, actually, anyway, didn't we, really?
But
Well, we did with the Eurovision.
Yeah, well, I know,
You
but we
know,
didn't think we were
setting a
going
trend.
to, you know. We just thought, well, we've done something else. And there's always an anticlimax after you've done something that seemed like something was going to happen. Going home on the train and the bus sort of thing and walking back home, you think, well, we just did something, but I think nothing's changed. Is anything going to change, you know? Anyway, so somehow in the next week or two, we got called up to EMI Studios in Abbey Wood, and the same studios that the Beatles used 3-4 years later, you know, and we had to do a record test, possibly for Norman Newell or Norrie Paramore. We can't remember. Don't remember what we sang. We met our manager there, Gerald Marks. He turned up. Brian went with us, and your dad. I got it in my diary. I was keeping I'd started keeping a diary in '55. In fact, my uncle bought it for me, and I remember thinking I didn't put much down in the first year. But as the idea coalesced to try and be a singer, I remember thinking, well, if ever it happens, it'd be rather interesting to read what led up to it. So from 1956 on, I started to put more and more details in the diary. So I've got lots of background information as to what we did, where we did it, and what was involved in doing it. So I've got in my diary, I read it the other day, and I didn't remember that your dad drove us there, Brian went with us, and our manager met us there. And we went in the studio. I didn't record what we sang, but I don't know if he told us on the day, but EMI turned us down, like the Decca turned down the Beatles, and they said, well, you're very good, but you're a bit too similar to the Everly Brothers. I don't think we can use you. So thank you very much for coming along.
Yeah.
But, oh, well, that good. You can't use us. Oh, and I remember Gerald Marks said, she said, oh, don't get discouraged, but don't get dispirited. I'll take the tape round the other record companies and see. I'm sure I can get. You deserve to be on record. I'll see if I can make something happen.
Because they'd actually fulfilled their part of the bargain, the recording test. So we'd had a recording test. That's it. Thank you very much.
So all we'd got was a portable tape recorder, which is portable. It's like a suitcase.
But luckily, Gerald, he persevered.
Yeah.
He thought, well,
we had the weekend in Vienna to look forward to.
And let's take them to more recording companies.
I'd never been to Jersey. I'd never been abroad. You'd been to France on a school trip, hadn't you?
Yeah.
Vienna? Bloody Austria.
No,
It seemed exotic, you know. I remember at the time, so Gerald Marks, our manager, said, well, when do you want to go to Vienna, boys? And we said, I don't know. We said, well, look, we tried to think practically. We said, we've got a record test to do. Supposing we're successful, and they say, yes, make a record. We didn't know how the things worked, what was the next step. If we make a record and it's released, supposing it's successful and they want us to go and do some jobs, we don't want to go fleeting off to Vienna. So we said, let's put it far enough in the future that it won't be in the way of anything. So we said we settled on a date in late February, because this was September when we won the prize. So we said, well, we'll go in February. And a weekend, if nothing happened with our career, being a singer, we'd both still be at work and we could take the weekend off. It wouldn't interfere. We could perhaps leave Heathrow Airport on a Friday and come back by Monday, you know.
Yes.
We were still thinking we daren't risk our jobs, you know. I was on £8, coming up to £9 a week. He was on £6. Well, we needed this money. And taking inflation into account, we're now in 2012, a pound then, multiplying for inflation, you've got to multiply by 20. A pound then was worth at least £20 now. So £6 a week was 120. I was on 8, that's 160 quid. I mean, that's, you know, you need it. You need it. I had to buy all my own clothes and go to the pictures and any entertainment and so on, you know. So you needed the money, you were desperate for it. There's no other way of income, of financing your life. So we booked the Vienna weekend in February. Right, failed the record test. Oh, so was that it?
Was that it? As I say, luckily Gerald Marks took us on to other companies, Philips, Decca.
No, he didn't. It must have gone to Philips last. Decca and Pie.
That's right.
And we kept ringing him up and say, "Is anything happening?" No, don't worry, boys. I've been to another place, and I'm afraid they said no as well. He said, "A few more to try." Well, we'd already been through something like this because in August '59 we won a small talent contest in the Soho Coffee Bar. Do you remember? And we got mixed up with the bass player from Cliff Richard's group, Ian Samwell, who'd written Move It. Bob hadn't even left school at that point, and I was in my job earning about £5 a week, and he was impressed with us. And he got us into, he took us to a hairdresser, had a hairstyle, had photographs taken, and then we did a test recording for him at a little studio, and Ian Samuel took our tape round the record companies, and this was in August and September '59, and nothing came of that. I got 2 letters from him telling me, don't worry, I've got to see Pie Records next week. And then in September '59, he sent us another letter saying, sorry boys, they all think you're very good, you two must like the Everly Brothers, best of luck. So that happened in '59, so when this was happening a year later, we thought, oh, we've been through this. Yeah, try one record label. We tried ourselves, Ian Samuel had tried, and then Gerald Marks was trying.
So really, if you don't persevere, basically the moral of all this, we tried and tried, that's the theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if we'd given up, well, we wouldn't have happened.
Well,
but we just kept on and on and on and on,
yeah,
didn't we,
well, with
really?
each minor success, we kept thinking this was actually bolstering and reinforcing our confidence. We thought, well, we do sound good, we can win a talent competition, people tell us we sound like the Everly Brothers, which is a bit irritating all the time to be, because everybody compared us to the one that was known, you know. So we thought, well, we're in with a chance. The big hurdle is going to be, well, they might give us a record contract, but then how do you find a song? Anyway, so we finally heard from Gerald Marks about, well, the end of September of 1960. I've got you another record test with Fontana Records. Meet me up there. And again, I had another dental appointment. Oh, my teeth.
Well.
Actually, in fact, I did have several dental appointments, so it fitted in, actually, because I was often at work with a swollen mouth from the injections. So just had to be there early in the evening. Again, it was lucky for us, it was in London. We always said we had some very fortunate breaks. If we'd been living in Chelmsford or Darlington or Bristol, we'd have had a problem. You know, but we were in London, we could go on the Underground, and Fontana Studios were at Marble Arch. You know.
So it was just up the road, really.
Yeah, just up the road to us. So we turned up at Fontana Studios, and this was in, so there's late September, early October 1960. Went in the studio, met the recording manager, Jack Baverstock, and said, go in the studio, boys, there's the microphone. Okay, when you're ready, start singing. And I can't remember what we sang.
Not that time.
Not that, I wish I'd kept more details.
We had some photos taken, didn't we? 1 or 2 photos.
Only once the contract had been agreed, but that night we didn't have anything taken, no. That was later. So we sang a few songs on the microphone and he recorded them, and we went back into his office. You know, his decision was fairly quick. It was that night. We went back into our recording manager's office and sat at the desk with him, you know, and he's sitting there on the desk, and Gerald Marks, our advisor, was there. He hadn't signed a contract with him, couldn't really call him a manager. And I remember him thinking, he looked at Gerald and he looked at us, and he said, yeah, he said, okay. He said, I think we'll try one record. He said, okay, we'll give you a contract for one record.
So casually, like, you know.
I remember thinking, wow.
He said, okay, we'll make a record, just like that. Make a record, this is it. This is what we've worked for all this time, you know.
Anyway,
it's happened.
I don't know when he came up with the contract. Well, no, they sent it to us. We didn't sign anything in the office. And Gerald says, we went out and I think we had a Wimpy, which was the McDonald's of the time, you know. Well, congratulations, boys. You know, he was an RAF type with a moustache. And he said, I knew I'd get you something and you'd be successful. All we got to know, let the record company find you a good song and then we'll make a record. We said, oh, thank you very much, Mr. Hart. Well, we went home, you know, because I went back to, I didn't say anything to anybody at work, you know, blimey. So we thought, what happens now? Well, between that time, early October and December, the record company sent us a few demos, as they were called, on disc, of pretty dire material.
Yeah.
The sort of stuff that even the King brothers wouldn't have recorded.
That's right, yeah.
We were a bit dismissive of them because there were 3 brothers who sang in unison. We could never understand why they never sang harmony on their records. And the Dallas boys all seemed to sing, 5 of them all singing in the same tune.
Yes, exactly.
Because if you've got more than one voice, do harmony, it sounds so good, you know. So we then went on with our jobs from October to December with nothing happening. And so I rang Gerald Marks a couple of times because Bob hadn't got the phone on at that point.
We didn't even have a phone. I didn't even have
My mum had it put on in June 1960, mainly because she needed to hear if her mum was okay, because her mum was getting on in her 70s and a bit worried about her. And I remember ringing Gerald a couple of times. I used to race home on my bike for lunch and ring him quickly. Any news, Mr. Mark? No, nothing. I'm going to try and get you on drum beat or easy beat. Oh, thank you, Mr. We weren't doing any singing. Oh, yeah. We got fed up with waiting for him to do something. So a friend of mine, my first singing partner, heard of a small group singing in a basement of a music shop in Walham Green, Teddy's Cannons. And we went down to meet them. And they were doing American basses and so on. We went down we thought, well, we could try and do something ourselves, even if it's only singing jobs at the weekend. And we met up with this small group run by the young bloke who ran the music shop above him, and he borrowed all the equipment, all the instruments. And we went down there one night, and they said, oh, what sort of stuff do you do? We said, well, Buddy Holly, the Everly Brothers, Elvis, you know. They said, okay, sing us a couple of numbers, which we did, and apparently they were all dumbstruck. And they said, oh, yeah, okay, you can sing with us, you know. And they had a manager, which impressed us, you know. They said, oh, come with us on the weekend, we've got a van, get in the van with us, and we're going to go off and do American basses and youth clubs and so on. Yeah. So we started going out on a Friday or a Saturday singing with this rock group in Fulham, you know, and they paid us, for the first show we did with them, they paid us 5 shillings each. That's 25 pence, you know. That's like, what's that now? It was £5, yeah, you know. And then they thought we were good, so I think they paid us $5 bob each for the first couple of shows, $10 bob each for the next couple of shows, and then it went up to £1, you know.
That was the start of our careers, really.
So then we said to Gerald, can you get us any bookings, Gerald? We're singing with a group now, you know, a rock band, and it's going down quite well, you know. And then the BBC asked us to do some more auditions, and Gerald said, he said, no, you're going to make a record now. He said, you don't need to audition. He said, we get you out on a record, you won't need to audition. And we said, oh, don't need to audition for the BBC? That's pretty impressive. Yeah, you know. Anyway, we got to the end of December, and nothing had happened, apart from doing these American basses on a Saturday. And suddenly the recording manager rang up, just after Christmas. And he apologised. He said, I'm sorry I've not been able to find any suitable songs for you. He said, I thought he was going to say, so thanks for coming in. That was the usual phrase. Thanks for coming in, I'll let you know.
Yes.
And then he said, somebody told me you sang some of your own songs on the talent show you did. Now, I don't remember this, but he said you sang some of... I said, did we? He said, yes. He said, are they any good? And I said... Could a killer. I said, oh, no, not really. I said, it's only a hobby. I'm not a real songwriter.
Oh,
I know, that's what I said to him.
Really put him off. We could have put him off.
He could have said, oh, all right, then don't bother. But he said, have you got any recorded? And I said, no, because in those days there was no doubt you couldn't copy tapes. If somebody wanted to hear you singing, you had to make a recording, especially you sat down one evening and then sent it to them, you know. So he said, could you record a few of your songs and bring them in? So I said, yeah, okay. So I went round to see Bob. I said, the recording manager says he hasn't got any songs for us. And Bob said, oh. I said, yes, but he wants to hear what I've got. He said he wants us to record some of my songs. He said, really? I said, yeah. I said, well, we better choose some.
We never realised how momentous that was. That was very momentous, actually.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I never had any idea that they were any good. I just thought it was a hobby. I quite liked writing. I couldn't stop writing songs. I'd written about 100 by then. But I'd been writing for 3 years. And it was just a hobby that got better and better. And I quite liked it, the producing stuff. What fascinated me, being interested from a philosophical view in life, was a song is something you create from nothing. It doesn't exist until you put it down and make the sound.
That's right. Yeah.
And it fascinated me to think, I could think of it in my head, try it out on the guitar, write it on a... That's never existed before.
You've got a song.
This is a gift from God. It's like a mini miracle, you know, and it fascinated me, but it was for fun mostly. Bob used to come around to me, we'd sing through my songs. And we worked out about a dozen, hadn't we?
Yeah.
So we picked out 10, we recorded 5 at my house one night, and the next night I carried this very heavy tape recorder down to Bob's house just to get a different sound, and we recorded 5 at Bob's house. So it gave us 10. I said, that should be enough. He might find one of interest, you know. Well, I'd written Are You Sure back in May of 1959, before Bob rejoined the choir, right? But I'd written more after that, which I thought were far better. I wrote this fabulous, remember Words?
Yeah.
Down, 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 down,
That was our second record.
It became our second record. But I thought I was going on to more professional things, you know. The early stuff was just experimental, you see. So we recorded a whole range of stuff that went from 1958 to 1960. Went up to this recording. We went up in the evening. I said, I can't take any more time off. This is too risky. I mean, this is all rather chancy. If nothing comes of it, I might lose my job. I couldn't do it. Couldn't risk it, you know. So we went up one evening, went into the recording manager's office, and he put the tape on the machine, you know. We sat there and waited. He had a pad, another being judged, you know. I remember thinking, I looked at Bob. I said, I don't think he likes any of them.
Yeah, and John, it's very daunting the first time if you're just a couple of lads and you go into a recording studio. This is Philip's recording studio.
But it was in his office when he was listening to them.
But when we went in the studio...
very intimidating, yeah.
And you've got all these speakers...
And being judged by a professional. This man's made records for other people. How could I possibly offer him anything he could use, you know?
And so you feel
suddenly feel, overawed by it.
Yeah, but overawed by it all,
So he's sitting, I'm thinking, no, he's probably writing rubbish, more rubbish. Yeah, can't write, you know. Anyway, he got to the end of the tape. And he switched it off. And he put it back to rewind. And you know that sound of a tape recorder. And he didn't say anything. And I'm thinking, oh dear.
I was thinking, oh.
He's probably going to say, well, you're right, you can't write, you know. And anyway, he switched the tape machine off and he looked at us. He said, well, he'd written 10 songs, right? He said, I've picked out 4 I liked.
So he said,
4?
He picked some.
You like 4? That's a 40% success. If he'd said 1, I'd oh great, he likes one of them at least, you know. He said, I picked out 4. He said, go home and rehearse them, he said, and by next week I'll have decided which 2 I want for the first record. I thought, first record?
Blimey. Yeah,
he said,
really
and then I'll get you to meet the arranger. He said, and we'll make a record. Oh, good heavens, I could hardly contain myself.
No, it was so exciting, because he could have so easily have said, well, they're not bad, these songs, but they're all a bit amateurish.
Write a few more.
Yeah, write a few more.
Have you got anything else we can use, you know? But when you picked out 4...
believe it.
As they are, he said, yeah, they'll be all right. Oh, I know what he said to me, because I had a lot of work to do. He said, I'd got this one tape. Now, I'd got a splicing machine. Now, I don't know why he asked me to do this, because he had the studio. He said to me, could you go home and splice the 4 together that I've heard, and let me send it back to me, let me hear them. He wanted me to do all the work. Let me hear them again. So I had to cut this tape and pick out the 4 he wanted and stick them together and put them on a little tiny reel. And then, luckily, I salvaged the tape because I put it back together. Because on the other side, we had a Mad Evening. Do you remember with Brian?
Oh,
and we'd been singing and mucking about on the other side. And I wanted to, I restored it. I stuck all the bits of tape back together. So I stuck these 4 songs together, put it on a tiny reel, and posted it back to him. And it could have got lost in the post. We'd have had to record it again. Anyway, so I sent the 4 back to him, and we waited. We thought, well, we practiced. We had to go back and see them. But when we got back to see them the following week, he'd listened to all 4 again, and he picked out the 2 he wanted. So I don't remember when we met the arranger. Was it that night or a couple of nights later?
No.
When Harry Robinson turned up?
Yes, Harry Robinson. Yeah. A couple of nights later, I think.
Back to the studio, back to his office, and we met this arranger. Right, hello, how'd you do? He sat at the piano and he said, right, show me how the song goes, because I hadn't got it written down properly. It was just on a notepad, you know. So I played in the chords. I said, well, we do this in F. I remember Jack saying, just, can you push it up a bit, boys? Push it up.
Make it higher.
I'd written it in F, if you know anything about it. He said, F sharp, G. He said, go to G sharp. G sharp? He said, because what you don't realise when you're writing songs, you're bending over and you sing in your tummy. When you're singing out loud on stage, you can raise your voice more if you're singing in a higher key.
Yeah.
So we learnt this fairly quickly, you know. So, well, I put a capo on. I said, well, I don't know that in any other chord formation. So I said, well, that's F to the arranger. And he said, right, well, that's G sharp. And he's playing it, you see. Then it goes to the C7. Right. And then G minor. He said, right. And he said, well, I think I'll put some violins in there. And we looked at each other. I said, violins? We're rock and roll singers. He said, yeah. Oh, I said, I think violins will sound nice there.
Yes.
I said, really? Violins? Oh, well, an orchestra. I thought we were going to sing with guitarists, you know.
Guitars. An orchestra was quite a big deal.
Violins? Well, it's wonderful enough you're going to choose one of my songs. You're going to put violins behind it, like classical music. You know, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, then, right, we finished the session and chatting to the arranger and so I put my guitar away, you know. And he said, well, I like the sound of the song. He said, well, we'll go into the studio next week and make the record. I thought, oh, I can't believe this, you know. He said, if the song turns out all right on the session, he said, we might offer it to the BBC for the Eurovision Song Contest.
Goodbye, farewell, I'm not sure what to do. So long, au revoir. It's hard, but I'll pull through. Are you sure you won't be sorry come tomorrow? You won't want me back again to hold you tight.